Thank you very much. Good afternoon, gentlemen. My pleasure to listen well to you this afternoon. It has been academically stimulating, and I think it's good for me to be here. So let me just contribute my part. First of all, I want to apologize that my presentation is not in slides, so you bear with me. Some of us are still analog, so to speak. So the pencil down to speak on the historical context of the Nigerian protests. Like we know what protest means. I don't need to bother us with definitions. What I want to say is that protest is as old as man himself, starting from the biblical times down to the present day. More so, as it is, protest is the same thread that is woven from when protest started in the scriptures and the Bible to the present day. That one, they are tied with the same brushes of economic demands or deprivations, economic hardship, political agitations, and of course, human rights. So at the time you streamline all of this, you see that all over time, these are the same issues that have actually propelled people to come out in protest. So it is innate in man to react to adverse or negative situations that threatens his existence. That is why neonates cry when they are hungry. Nappies are wet or soiled with poo. These natural instincts could said to be responsible for the waves of protests that have swept across the globe, starting from the 13th century and in our dear country, Nigeria, before independence in 1960.
Are you an entrepreneur struggling to stand out in a crowded market? Your secret weapon is your story. Discover how to make your competition irrelevant by owning your story. Want to learn more? Check out our signature program, Own Your Story, a 5-week training to reshape your narrative. The link is what you see on your screen, academy.aclasses.org/story. Now back to the conversation.
Throughout history, protests have been the driving force behind some of the most powerful social movements, exposing injustice and abuse, demanding accountability, and inspiring people to keep hoping for a better future. Protesters may organize a protest as a way of publicly making their opinions heard in an attempt to influence public opinion or government policy, or undertake direct action in an attempt to enact desired change themselves. The act of protest is gratifying on its own. Participation may cause a thrill. People may have the opportunity to express their opinion, their anger or dissatisfaction, or they feel the duty to participate. Across Africa, young people have been at the forefront moves of protest, driven by unhappiness about their current living conditions and political leaders' failure to deliver economic progress. I think that is exactly what we are facing today. Before I delve into maybe perspectives around the world, before I narrow it down to Africa and of course our dear country, Nigeria, what we are saying is, for example, dating back to 2015, for example, when the Magna Carta, King John was forced to sign the Magna Carta, we'll see that at least it was because of his overbearing influence, dictatorial tendencies that made the feudal laws and the bishops mobilize the people against him to sign that document, to say, look, we are not above the law. Because if, for example, he had ruled with the fear of God, as we have been trained, definitely that would not have happened. Even in the scriptures, for example, Cain killed his brother Abel because he protested against God's preference for his brother's preference over his own. And of course, in the wilderness, when Moses led his people, our forebears, out of Egypt with freedom from Pharaoh, tyrannical Pharaoh, and in the wilderness, what happened? There were agitations. They were impatient. They just imagined that they have been abandoned to die in the desert. And of course, what did they do? They protested by way of asking their women to surrender their gold ornaments, which they melted and fashioned out a calf, which they now begin to worship as their gods. So to me, that is actually the origin of protest. I'll just start with that. Now, back to Cerebral, the other ones. From 2015, 1215 down, you see that it has been the same all over. 1381, medieval Europe, that is 30 years after the Black Death. Wat Tyler led the protest that challenged the class system, because of the introduction of the poll tax. Then in 1517, of course, Martin Luther's 15 Thesis was launched because he protested against the policies of the Catholic Church. So down through 1773, the Boston Tea Party, 1778, the French Revolution, and then the Luddites in 1812, at least, who were afraid of the introduction of technology. And then 1930, when the suffragettes came, at least women emancipation and other women rights groups, and they came up to say, look, they equally have a right to participate in the affairs of their country through the ballot. Then, and of course, that was in 1913. Then from the 1960s down, for example, there was the civil rights movement, segregations and all the rest in America and in South Africa. Then from 1963 to 1989, there was a task for democracy. Those who were colonized and all the rest wanted freedom. So what am I saying? That you discover that in all of this, it is because people were marginalized. People were not getting a feel of what is happening. They were classed or classified as second-class citizens, or that does not matter. So only a few, like we are having now in Nigeria. So that happened. So when you come down to the African continent, for example, you discover that Africa at a point was dubbed the protest capital of the world, maybe because of the apartheid regime, where all of us will know at least what has happened. And then, of course, Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, both of them of blessed memory, and of course, some other persons rose up at least to say, look, no, even if it was free. But then there were protests because, one, it was like, you can't come to my land, take over my land, and then treat me as if I do not matter. So whether I exist or not, it does not matter to you, so long as you get it all. So, of course, that was how these agitations across the world started. And then Rome and Madrid hosted the biggest protest in history. Rome, for example, hosted 3 million people. That entered into the Guinness Book of Records. Of course, Madrid hosted 1.5 million people. That was when America invaded Iraq. The most famous protest in history was the Black March on Washington, led by Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963 for freedom and jobs. Martin Luther King Jr. made his famous speech, "I have a dream," at this protest. South Africa has the most protests because of the fight against apartheid rule, and was dubbed the protest capital of the world. The Soweto uprising in 1977 led to the arrest and torture of many BCM leaders, including Steve Biko, who in September of same year died from a brain hemorrhage after police shackled and beat him. Black South African students protesting against the Africans Medium Decree of 1974 between June 16 to 18, 1976 led to 476 deaths. The self-immolation of Mohamed Bouazizi on 17 December 2010 in Tunisia sparked the Arab Spring, which lasted from December 17, 2010 and ended on December 12, 2012. Now, trajectory of protests in Nigeria. The following factors, like I mentioned earlier, political, economic, human rights, freedom, and welfare, at least form the nucleus why people went on strike in Nigeria. For example, the About Women in 1929 poured out onto the streets because of the obnoxious tax, system imposed on them by the British colonialists. In that riot, 50 women died. So that was economic. It was economic as it was political. Because one.
Thank you for watching. Are you enjoying the video? Let us know in the comment section. My mission is to help professionals like you to own their story. What would I do for you, you might ask? Well, it helps you make your competition irrelevant. Want to learn more? Check out our signature program, Own Your Story, a 5-week training to reshape your narrative. The link is what you see on your screen, academy.aclasses.org/story. Now back to the conversation.
They were being subjugated. They were being denied their fundamental human rights and being treated that condition by the colonialists who were just after the economic interest, economic exploitation and interest of their country and of themselves. In the 40s, a veteran labor leader, Michael Imodu, led protests against the British colonial masters when they fought for increased welfare, increase in the cost of living allowance. That was, acronym COLA, the COLA protest in the 40s. Then in 1949, respectively, there was the Egba Women's Riot and the Iva Valley Colliery Riot in Enugu. In that riot, 21 persons were killed and 51 injured. Why? The protest was over poor working conditions. Then, of course, in 1960, there was the Anglo-Nigerian Defense Pact. And don't forget, that was the year we had our independence. And of course, it was like giving a goat to a shrine and holding on to the rope. And of course, Nigerian students rose up to say, no, if we are independent, it should be fully independent in its, totality. The idea of entering into a defense pact with our colonial master that they will not only have their presence here, they can use our space to land, to do whatever they want to do, erodes our independence. So students went on, they protested, and that led to the cancellation of that pact in 1962. And of course, in 1971, because of the increase and poor welfare in student feeding, there was a riot at the University of Ibadan. One, Kunle Adepetu, was killed. That was in 1971. And of course, on February 1, 1970, students of the University of Ibadan protested for better welfare. That was where Kunle Adepetu was killed. The Ali Must Go protests, which began on April 17, 1978, was orchestrated by the increase in school fees and meal tickets, as announced by the then Federal Commissioner for Education, Amadu Ali. That protest led to the death of Akintunde Ojo, a student of the University of Lagos. He was shot on the leg and he bled to death. And this made students in other campuses, other sister universities to join. But then that happened at the ABU in Zaria was the most devastating. The students clashed with soldiers, and at the end of the day, 4 of them were felled by the bullets. Again, on May 23, 1983, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria erupted again when students protested against America's invasion of Iraq. 4 students lost their lives in the melee. The IMF and World Bank Inspired Structural Adjustment Program, SAP, provoked Nigerian students again into a nationwide protest. The students of the University of Benin started the protest on May 24, 1989. This spread rapidly to other universities. 14 persons were killed in Lagos and Ibadan. Public and private properties were destroyed, including the State House of Assembly here in Benin. The June 12, 1993 protest that swept across the country was precipitated by the willful annulment of the June 12, 1999 presidential election, presumably won by the late Basharum MKO Abiola. You and I know that that election, to me, still date, remains the most free and credible election that have been conducted in this country. Between January 2 to 14 in the year 2012, a group known as Occupy Nigeria converged on Freedom Park in Lagos to oppose the increase in the pump price of PMS by the Jonathan administration. Eminent Nigerians, including the incumbent president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, participated. Of course, in 2020, the NSAS protests that degenerated to bloody riot will go down in history as the most bloody riots or demonstration in Nigeria. Championed by Nigerian youths, the protest was to draw the authorities' attention to unprofessional acts and conduct of men and officers of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police Force. The squad lost its focus and became nest of killers, targeting youth. The high point of the protest, which started in Delta State and swept across the country for days, led to the alleged Lekki Toll Gate massacre. Up till now, the total number of youths or protesters that were killed at that toll gate has not been known. Bringing this mass protest to a close is the current end bad governance in Nigeria, which commenced on a peaceful note in some states on August 1, 2024, and planned to end in August 10, 2024. Few days into the strike, miscreants infiltrated the protests in Kano, Kaduna, Borno, Yobe states, and the FCT. Public and private properties were vandalized, looted, and burnt. Unconfirmed number of protesters have been killed in these instances. Most worrisome is the carrying of the Russian flag in Kano and Kaduna by the protesters. This development has added a new dimension to protests in Nigeria. As stated in my introduction, protests in Nigeria, Africa, and elsewhere across the globe are motivated by three main factors: economic, human rights. Now, we want to bring it down to the context, the Nigerian context. We know that, as we have seen through what I have managed to put down, it is the same issues, recurrent issues, occasioned by bad leadership, aided by bad followership, and then dysfunctional system, institutions over the years have actually exacerbated the issue of protest. If, for example, all through before independence, under the colonial masters, then at independence up till date, it is the same issues: welfare, bad governance, corruption, economic hardship, poverty, lack of basic necessities of life, housing, poor roads, no energy, no electricity, and of course, lack of jobs. The industries are not working. Right now, there are fuel scarcity again, even when subsidy has been removed. The 4 refineries we have in Nigeria are not working because of acts of sabotage, because people are benefiting from the importation of fuel, because it swells their bank account. So people, even a goat, when pushed, we actually fight back. I think protest is a way of these youths, because the youths in Nigeria, at least, statistics have shown that over 75% of the Nigerian population are the youth. And you know, this is the most productive sector of the population. So if this set of persons are idle, then you can imagine, like they say, an idle mind is a willing tool in the hands of the devil. So that is why a lot of vices, just to make sure that at least they are not extinguished alive with the sufferings, have decided to take the laws into their hands to do those things which ordinarily are not supposed to be attempted. For example, most youths are they started with 419. From 419, they entered into Yahoo Plus, which is ritual murder, killing relations, killing their girlfriends and even friends for money-making purposes. So what am I saying in essence or in earnest is that not until we go back to the basics. I listened to some of the papers presented. Is on the same threshold. For example, the food crisis. The government, each and every one of us knows what we do. So not until, for example, there are reforms, genuine reforms, starting with is either restructuring or fashioning out a new constitution. Because to me, the constitution that was foisted on us by the departing military in 1999 is not working. And it cannot work if it remains like this. It must be the people's constitution, fashioned by themselves and agreed in a referendum, decreed into existence by a referendum, not the one that is decreed by military fiat. A lot is wrong. Then most of our institutions, for example, like the INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, because we know the fulcrum on which democracy revolves is an independent electoral umpire. Where this is not so, then definitely problems will manifest. And that is exactly what we are getting. Then, and of course, we need our leaders. I'll start with the followers. The followers need to do the needful, that at least we know that if we know our constitutional rights, our rights, the obligation of governments, and our civic responsibility, we know that at least when we see something, we should talk. And we must ensure that we participate in the electoral process. How are the youths going to do that? They must organize themselves, behave like Emmanuel Macron of France, who at 39 became the president of France. We have talents. Talents are bounds and skills in our youth. They are educated, they are cerebral. But the problem is they are not given the opportunity. Even when they have the opportunity, our leaders, our geriatric leaders, we make them flunk it. They spoil the few of them with filthy lucre, make them rich for them to begin to say, oh, I don't belong. And then once there is a division, definitely the center cannot hold. That is the problem with the youth. So starting with the electoral reforms, after a new constitution comes in place, electoral reforms. Then, of course, judicial reforms, very serious judicial reforms. Because year in, year out, politicians cannot come when it is at the beginning of another electioneering period for them to promise, we'll build roads, we'll give you food to eat, we'll flood the markets with food, basic necessities. No, politicians must be, our political exposed person must be held accountable. They must be made to face the law. They must be responsible to the people. After all, if all of us subject ourselves to the rule of law, things will go well in this country. There are several security challenges because of this unemployment, high rate of unemployment amongst the youths. And that is the truth. Our educational institutions are in shambles, not to talk of our health facilities. So it's an aggregation of all of these that have actually pushed the youth out once more again to say, look, enough is enough. We must fight for our rights. But in doing that, they have lost focus because let me say they are leaderless. They were not united in reason, in demands. They lost focus and allowed the rank and file to be infiltrated by those layabouts, like it happened in Benin, because I'm in Benin. A lot went wrong. Extortion came in. They wanted to begin to loot until they were reined in by the military. Finally, if we must get it right, every Nigerian must change. There must be genuine change. Like we say in where I work before retirement, the National Orientation Agency, change begins with me. I heard somebody mention the mindset. Actually, the mindset of most Nigerians is that not until I become a politician, I can never make it. Not until I'm appointed into a position, I can never make it. And some of us have this mindset that election cannot be free, that it is only the rich that can actually participate, contest elections. All these are negative mindsets. This negative mindset that things cannot work in Nigeria must be discarded. We must reorientate ourselves. When we reorientate ourselves, change our behavioral patterns, become change agents. And then, like they say, it must start, while some say it must start from the top, which is true, but from your own little space. When you do the little you can do, you do the right thing, definitely it will trickle down. Just like we say, information is key. When you see something and you say something, then you are transmitting information. The next person is aware. That is exactly what we need. This protest will continue not until those who are our leaders do a rethink, put on their thinking cap, and do strategic thinking to know how to tackle. Only there must be short-term, medium-term, and long-term solutions to problems. Throwing money at problem definitely will not lead us anywhere. It's like walking in circle, and will remain where we are. And Nigeria will be stagnated. The acclaimed giant of Africa has become the giant of Africa with clay feet. And that is the truth. Things must work in Nigeria. And that is why I want to commend Walefo for this, his insight in bringing eminent and erudite scholars to talk on issues that affects our country, that will help shape the future of this country. I hope in my little way I've been able to contribute. Actually, I'm not emotionally stable because just yesterday, news filtered in that my brother, who is with the NYC, has just been kidnapped along the Anambra axis. So throughout yesterday, throughout this in the night and this morning, we'll be running up and down. Just because I've given my consent that I will appear. That is why I'm here. They're asking for 12 million. We've been able to pay for. Up to now, we've not been able to talk to him. So my mind is a little bit distorted. As I'm here, calls are coming in on my phone, but I'm not picking them because just for updates, and I need to go out.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. We appreciate what you share with us. And of course, we appreciate also what you are doing. You have headed the National Rotation Agency in those states. So we appreciate the contribution that you made. Because when we talk of beginning from the speech by Professor Oluwafemi, it has been about the mindset. We need to change the way we think, the way we reason, because that is where the major problem is. Anyway, there is a lot that we can actually unpack from your presentation, and it's okay. Now, let's allow the last speaker to speak so that we can then move into the question, because I have some questions that I laid down that I really would like to ask. But before then, I want to say so sorry for what have happened. You see, this is really the saddest part of it, because this is why the people also are on the street, because we cannot go on like this. This is not how we want to live. Nigeria is actually supposed to be a paradise. We are in paradise, but we turn it into hell. We turn it into hell for ourselves. This is unfortunate. You cannot be walking on your street, somebody just kidnapped you and say, bring 10 million naira. You see, we can't go on like this. This is not life. We are just like suffering, making ourselves to suffer for nothing. Look at our land, our geography. The land is fertile. We have young people that can work. How can we have oil? We cannot produce it. We have refinery. They are not working. Somebody needs to import it somewhere because they want to make money. The entire population can just be put into suffering because something is wrong. Something is wrong here.